Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and to another long overdue video. I have been really lacking in videos and just motivation to do much, to be honest, since getting back from holiday, so I am now here to change that, and I thought I would start by doing a 2 under 2 tips and my personal experience with it. So I do have a girl and a boy and they are 19 months apart, so obviously they weren't 2 under 2 for too long, but I definitely had like a good, I think like 6 months or just under of having them in that stage, and just even having like a short, small age gap. This is like the perfect video for you. Obviously, this is my personal experience, so this is not gospel. You might have kids that are completely different to mine, different temperaments, all of that. Don't let it scare you or anything. This is just my personal view, my personal opinion, and tips that I think might help new mums or dads out there. I'm also seeing quite a few YouTubers now that are having 2 under 2 or like closer age gaps, so I thought this was the perfect time. I'm gonna get this video out and share my views and my experience with 2 under 2. So my first tip would be to have a support system in place and have someone spend one-to-one time with your eldest. I think that is so important. You don't want them to miss out on attention. I know obviously it's not going to be from mummy entirely, because obviously you've got to focus on the newborn and things like that. You've got to sort of spread your attention, which is definitely difficult to maneuver at first. But if you can have someone take your eldest out for like an hour or two to the park, or even have daddy spend some one-to-one time reading or playing for like half an hour or an hour at home, it will just help to ease them into it, and it will make your life so much easier. And also in terms of relying on someone to maybe cook for you or help clean, like let people help with doing things for you, because you're not going to be able to do it all, especially when you're finding your feet as a mum and dad of 2. It's going to be tricky, but you definitely will get through it. I found, now looking back on it, the newborn stage was not too hard with a 19-month-old. Like, it wasn't the most tricky dynamic. I'm finding now is a lot harder, but definitely just get that support system in place and get someone to help you with like food and things. I remember when I had my second, my partner would have to like help feed me and things, and to like cook for me a lot, because I just didn't have the time, especially when you're breastfeeding and things. It takes out a lot of time and a lot of energy, so make sure that you are well fed and well looked after yourself. So my second tip would be to have a toy basket that only has toys that come out for feeding time. So a specific one where there's a few little toys that will keep them occupied for a good half an hour, something like that. And even books would be a great way while you're feeding to just spend some one-to-one time with your eldest while also feeding. And obviously you can't really move very much when you are, so it's just great if you can get them to get a few books, bring them to you for feeding time, and that can be like your bonding reading time with your eldest. It just makes life so much easier. I actually didn't do this, but I really wish I had have just had like a basket with certain toys. Make sure that you keep it out of reach and out of sight when you're not feeding, because it just means that they're going to be distracted a lot easier, and they're going to be more focused on the toys when you do bring them out. It will just make your life so much easier, much less mum guilt as well, which we do not want. Especially when, say, your partner goes back to work and you're left with the 2 little ones, and you're thinking, oh my god, like I'm gonna struggle, I need to feed. I remember when I did it, and obviously I'd be feeding on the sofa and I'd be stuck there for a good like sometimes an hour or something, and my eldest wants something. So be prepared with that as well. Maybe try and have some snacks pre-prepared so that you can have them on hand, so if they're hungry or if they need anything else, then you can just quickly give it to them. You don't need to go off and prepare things. Just make your life easier and prepare as much as possible. So another thing, which is not a tip but more of an expectation, is that bedtimes are chaotic. They are really, really chaotic, especially if you as the mum tend to do a lot of the bedtimes with your eldest before obviously your newborn comes. That's what happened with us. I always do bedtimes, and then when I had my newborn, it was usually like feeding time. They'd feed to sleep, so I'd be sort of stuck feeding, and then my eldest would want to go to bed, and it was just chaotic. To be honest, bedtimes are still a bit chaotic, but not as bad as the newborn stage with a 19-month-old. That was quite a difficult time. Like, I'm glad I don't have that right now. But yeah, just be mindful that bedtimes, they're going to be chaotic, they're going to be hard, but you will get through it. Try and make your life as easy as possible. Have like your partner do bedtimes for your eldest, or if they can, look after the newborn while you're putting your eldest to bed. See if you can maybe do like a rota, so one day you do your eldest, the next day you do your newborn, just so that the eldest is not feeling so left out. Or even if you can just do like bath time or something to just help yourself. But once you get like a routine and things, it will make it a lot easier. So my next tip is to try and get a routine when you are ready, once you can implement it, but also don't put pressure on yourself that you're not going to obviously have a routine early on. I've never really had routines with my kids. I'm not the most organized person. I did more so when I just had one. It was a lot easier. It was just bath, book, bed, and like the timings of bedtime, they were sort of quite frequent. I sort of knew when she would be going to sleep, but with two, it sort of went out the window and never came back, to be honest. But yeah, if you can get some sort of routine down, that will be really helpful, but just don't put pressure on yourself. Never put pressure on yourself to like do anything at a certain time. All children are different, all families are different, so just do not worry about that at all. So another expectation would be to not expect your kids to be the best of friends straight away. I sort of had in my head, oh, I'm going to have them really close together and they're going to be such good friends, they're going to play with each other lovely, and sort of they'll have each other's backs and all of that lovely stuff. Doesn't always work that way, or at least not straight away. So obviously when they're babies, they're not really going to have much of a bond anyway. That grows with time. But I found more so now that they're 2 and 4, the fighting is relentless and it is non-stop and it is just draining. So obviously they do like hug each other and sometimes they'll play nicely with each other, but I'd say probably about 70% of the time they're just non-stop fighting or hitting or shouting or something like that. I mean, it's not ideal, but I'm hoping by the time that they get a little bit older, they get a little bit more mature, they will become good friends. And I'm sure that will be the case, but just don't expect it to happen straight away. So another thing is getting out the house with 2, especially newborn and like 19-month-old or just under 2 under 2. It's hard. You've got so much to take. Obviously, when they're younger, you need things like bottles. If you obviously use a bottle, you need nappies, you need snacks, like you need so much. You need to make sure you have everything, like a spare change of clothes. So if you can get prepared like the night before, if you know that you have to go out like on your own, especially if you need to do like shopping or something like that, try and maybe be prepared beforehand. But it can be a little bit tricky to like get out the house, and you know, sometimes you'll be ready to leave and then someone will need like a nappy change or something. So it is really hard sometimes just to get out the door. But also shopping with 2, it can be tricky. I mean, a lot of shops now, they do have like the double trolleys, so please make use of that, because that was a godsend for me when I had 2 under 2. It was so hard to just get in a shop, so if I could just plonk them in the trolley, they couldn't move, they couldn't do anything, just make sure they don't fight or anything, but that makes it a whole lot easier. But to be honest, I found that when it was like 2 under 2 going shopping, in terms of actually doing the shopping, it was quite easy. You know, the newborn just sort of sits there, and then your older one, they're usually all right, actually. They don't sort of kick off too much. So that's not so hard. I'm finding now that they're 2 and 4, shopping is a mammoth task. And to be honest, I dread it most days. It's very, very tricky. My personal experience, you guys might not have that experience, hopefully, but it is a tricky task. If you can have someone to actually do the shopping for you, that would probably be the best thing. Even like 1 or 2 days, have someone else do it for you. That will help a lot. But it can be very difficult just doing regular tasks. Another thing I wanted to bring up was that in terms of loving 2 children, your love doubles, it doesn't half. So do not be concerned that, you know, you might not love the second as much as the first, or it will be different. It's the same, or at least it was for me. You know, I connected straight away. I know not everyone might, but love definitely is not a question, and don't make that a reason that you sort of hold back from having another child, or even like 2, 3, 4 children. You're going to have enough love to go around. There is no question about it. So do not have that as a worry in your mind. Another thing that I did was to get my eldest to sort of connect with your bump. I know it's kind of tricky because it depends as well on what age they are. Obviously, when she was maybe like 13, 14 months on, that's probably when I more so did it. But also we had the name of my son already, so we exactly knew what his name was going to be. So that did help to make that connection for her, because she would talk to my belly and actually say his name and things. And obviously if like he kicked and things, I'd try and get her to feel it and explain it a little bit. It is tricky to get them to comprehend, to be honest, but if you can do something like that, it will definitely help. And it's not just going to be a shock like, oh, this thing's here, like where did it come from and all of that. So if you can get them to sort of connect a little bit, even if you don't have like a name or you don't know the sex or anything like that, just try and get them to be part of the process and definitely get something from the newborn for your eldest. I think that that helps a lot. And especially if it's like the book that I mentioned, when the baby is here, you can still go through it with them and it just helps a lot. And they are my tips and expectations and personal experience from having 2 under 2. I hope you have enjoyed this video. It's a very niche video, so obviously this probably is only useful for those that are either having 2 under 2 or thinking about it. If you have any specific questions, please leave them in the comments below and I will definitely get back to you. But thank you guys so much for watching and I will see you in my next one.